The Eye Care Program. 35 years of alcohol, drug abuse, and violence prevention. Serving the East Baton Rouge Parish community since 1981.
Hello, my name is James Upright. I'm the Healthy Minds Coordinator here at Eye Care, and I'm also a graduate student in the LSU School Psychology program. Today, I'm joined by Tanya Griffin. Thank you very much for joining us today. So, you're talking about dating violence and abuse. I just wanted to ask you a couple questions today about it. So, what is the dating and violence abuse presentation, and who's it ideal for?
Okay, well, I am with the Eye Care program, which is a part of East Baton Rouge Parish Schools, and we do drug, alcohol, and violence prevention in all of the public schools, some parochial and private schools. And so, with that, we've been able to deliver a dating and violence presentation that we think is phenomenal, that the kids have received, and it focuses mainly on high school students' dating behaviors, but we also offer it to parents who want to learn more about possible dating warning signs, as well as support staff for the students.
And you gave a presentation on this yesterday, right?
I did.
Yeah, could you tell us about that?
I sure can. We were able to deliver this presentation at Louisiana State University to the 4-Hers there who were there for camp. It's comprised of students all across Louisiana who participate in a variety of topics, and we had about 85 students signed up for this presentation.
That's awesome, and I saw they're also getting into some role play as well.
They were.
Yeah.
They actually look forward to this presentation. It's been done before for them. This is the third year that this presentation has been done in the summer for them. And actually, one young lady came up to me and showed me a picture that we took 2 summers ago.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm sure they really enjoy the information. It's very beneficial for parents and teens to be able to get this sort of presentation. And so what would you say are some of the benefits of the presentation for parents?
For parents, they're able to take a look at abusive situations, look at an abusive cycle, which is comprised of a romantic situation, getting to know one another, and then taking a look at physical abuse and mental emotional abuse, and possibly looking at warning signs of an unhealthy relationship with their child.
Well, then that perfectly segues into the next thing that I wanted to ask you about. And what are some of the warning signs of dating violence? What are things that both parents and teens should be keeping an eye out for that might set off some red flags?
We definitely want parents to take a look at the relationships that their children are in, whether they're friendships or dating relationships. If they are dealing with somebody who may be extremely jealous, a dating partner or a friend who always wants to know their whereabouts, possibly someone who has lots of mood swings, or a friend or a dating partner that wants to be involved very quickly, someone who wants to take ownership. We want the parents to just be aware of those types of behaviors.
That's interesting, and I think that's a great point that you're bringing up, that it's not just about these romantic relationships, but people can have friendships that aren't that are negatively impacting their children,
Right.
and that can be something that's extremely important to look out for as well.
Mhm.
And then before we go any further, it might be good that we set out kind of like how do we define abuse? What exactly do we mean by abuse?
Okay,
Yeah.
well, the definition that we share with the students is very simple. The misuse or mistreatment of someone or something.
Yeah.
And so we make that very clear.
Okay.
If someone is misusing you or
Yeah.
mistreating you and you feel that this is not right,
hmm
then that is abuse.
Okay. Yeah, and I'd assume that it can also be a lot of times we're concerned about the intentional sorts of forms of abuse, but sometimes I guess people can get into behavior patterns where they don't even realize that they might be abusive to other people. But
Right.
it's probably still extremely important, equally important
Definitely.
to address those sorts of things. And then going on top of that, you talked earlier about this sort of abuse cycle of there are romantic components about the way that people are interacting, but there are also these mental and physical abuse behaviors. And can you
Right.
tell us about like what this whole pattern of abuse is?
Right. Well, when we take a look at the pattern of abuse
Yeah.
and we say the abuse cycle,
Yeah.
because the cycle is ongoing, it's
Mhm.
continuous. It starts with dating, the romantic wooing part.
Yeah.
And this is something that the students really enjoy to talk about. What do
Mhm.
you do to get to know somebody better? What are some examples of just starting a relationship, whether it's a friendship or a dating relationship? And they say things like talking on the phone, writing letters, Snapchatting one another.
Yeah.
Technology
Yeah.
is a new part of dating.
Yeah.
Other things such as holding hands,
Mhm.
going to the movies, going bowling, playing sports together. But something that we found interesting is over the years, a lot of students are lessening saying going to eat
Yeah.
at home with the other parents. And so that's something we just want to remind parents is to be very cognizant of who your child is with,
Yeah.
and also getting to know the dating partner or the friend's parents as well,
Yeah.
keeping that face-to-face relationship.
Yeah, making sure that you're remaining involved, that you're aware of the people that your children are being around. That obviously makes sense. Obviously we trust our children, but sometimes they're growing up still not necessarily the best judge of character. They haven't learned those sorts of things.
Right.
So yeah,
And so taking a look at just the romantic part of the cycle, but we also remind them that the other two components are physical and also mental and emotional. And so when we ask the students to give us examples of physical abuse, they're quick to say hitting,
Yeah.
punching, slapping, kicking, but when we drive home the fact that it's not just physical, it can also be mental and emotional, then you can kind of see them waking up and looking and saying,
Yeah.
well, Miss Tanya, what are some examples of mental emotional? Is somebody lying? Is that a form of abuse? And so we want to remind parents that, lies can be part of abusive relationship. Someone cheating on somebody else, somebody threatening, somebody trying to control and manipulate you, cursing, calling you names.
Right.
These are also parts of an abusive cycle.
Yeah, I think it can be very easy for people to probably understand the visual or visually see some of those physical components of physical abuse, obviously, because oftentimes it leaves bruises, and so it can be very easy to notice in that way. But unfortunately, sometimes those kind of mental abuse kind of goes, behind the doors. Maybe people are out in public together and they seem fine, but at home, the significant other is putting the other person down, telling them that they're not attractive, not worthwhile. And that can be very problematic for individuals. And so, speaking of that, what are some of these sorts of common types of mental abuse behaviors that people tend to engage in? We talked about like degrading another person to lower their self-worth. What are some of the other things you mentioned? Also being controlling about people. What does that tend to look like?
Being controlling, some small situations that some of our students have brought to my attention when we actually meet with the students in schools. Some of the young ladies and the young men say that a dating partner may call them on the phone and fuss because they aren't home yet, because it's not a certain time, or if they're supposed to be working, and they're supposed to get off at 10 o'clock, but they get off at 10:30, then they think that they're cheating on them. So that starts an argument. Being in any type of situation where you feel mistreated or misused can be a possible warning sign for abuse cycle. So just having parents be aware of those signs for their students. If you notice that your child is at home and depressed or kind of reserved or retreating from conversation, not quite themselves, or consumed just in the relationship, but not so much in other relationships that are healthy, those can be warning signs.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that yesterday at the presentation to the 4-H individuals, that one of the things that sometimes people, abusers tend to do is try to divide the person that they're dating from their friends and their family, because that makes them more susceptible to that form of abuse. It makes that cycle able to continue on without much interference from outside individuals. So that can be definitely something that probably people should be looking out for.
Definitely.
Yeah. And so going on from that too, if parents are beginning to notice any of these signs, what are some of the things that they might be able to do to intervene, to address what's going on with their child?
Well, when we talk with parents, whether it's on the phone or a consultation or in parent sessions at the schools, because we do those as well, we want parents to continue an open dialogue with their child, no matter how old they are. It's always good to just have that old school sit down and talk over a meal or a conversation, face to face, reading body language, making eye contact, just talking to the student, having that conversation, and also getting to know their friends and watching friends' relationships, as well as getting to know the parents of the dating partners.
Yeah. No, that's good to know. And it just seems like there's a big part of making sure that you're asking and engaging with your children, maybe not assuming that they're going to come and talk to you about it, but maybe probing yourself and seeing what's going on in their life.
Yeah, and I found that some parents have actually said that they're afraid to pry.
Yeah.
But I want parents to know that your students want you to ask.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, they are extremely excited and kind of waiting in the background for you to ask. And don't just give up one time if they're quiet the first time. They want to pour out so much information. They just want us to ask.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing to note too, because it can be sometimes difficult to ask. Like you said, some parents seem like they may be afraid that it's going to be overly prying, but it may be just a concept of how they approach it. I know that when we're doing therapy sessions with young students, we obviously have to ask questions about some of the problems that they're having. So we do have to, if you want to call it prying a little bit, but we always try to come in and make sure that we're doing it in kind of a warm manner, that we're not trying to be judgmental or conveying that we are concerned about their best interest and their health, without trying to make it too much of like a negative experience for them. So would you say that's probably something that's important for parents to make sure they don't come in and be accusatory of the child or put them down?
Right. So some tips I have as far as approaching your child about dating and friendships. You wanting to make sure that you have a tone, like you said, that's not accusatory. But if you feel like you may be the type of parent where you have an aggressive tone, you may want to write your child letters or notes. Just having a notebook, go back and forth and say, hey, how was your day today? Feel free to write me back, love mom or love dad. And it sounds kind of childlike, but that process also works. And it's very simple, just to kind of keep an open dialogue if you feel like you're not able to do it face to face.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think just having that line of communication is probably extremely important to have. It seems like also another maybe downfall of if parents were being overly aggressive about asking their children about this, they may be less likely to disclose this information in the future. So not only is it important to stay involved, but it's also important to come at it in a way that's not going to shut your child down to you, I assume.
Right, because as I said earlier, they always want to pour out. Something my mom did with me was she would write me notes and I'd write back. And so we still have a good writing relationship. So I think that...
You guys text now? Or?
We text, we write. I want her to Snapchat, but we're not there yet.
Yeah, well, that could always be like an updated version instead of having to do the notebook, do the texting.
Definitely. And a lot of our parents are on Facebook.
Yeah.
So if you're on Facebook and you have, I think I learned it, DM.
Yeah.
The direct messaging.
Yeah.
They taught me that yesterday. Parents can use that with their child. So I think that'd be a cool new thing to try out, and they probably enjoy it.
And I'm sure parents out there they know their child, they can come up with creative ways that they can have these sort of activities together where it's good quality time together and they're able to talk about it in a warm sort of situation, but still being firm about kind of communicating some of these facts, not to necessarily just go with the flow of it, but also don't jump down your child's throat about it either.
Right.
Yeah. And then moving on from what parents can do, for any maybe friends or teens out there that are watching this, what are the recommendations? How can you be involved to support a friend if you think that they may be in some sort of abusive relationship?
Okay, I am a fan of group dating,
Mm-hmm.
double dating, just groups of friends hanging out together.
Yeah.
I think it's very important for our teens to speak up, and we call it be upstanders.
Yeah.
If you notice that you have a friend being mistreated or misused, even if it's something small, maybe somebody calling a name or kind of like pushing or tugging or
Yeah.
making fun of, but they're together. Speaking up about that, because that may prompt them to have a conversation about their
Mhm.
relationship and about what's healthy and what's not healthy.
Yeah.
So just being a really good friend, being observant, not being afraid to communicate and to speak up.
Yeah. Now that makes complete sense in that way, and I assume they also want to, try to come at it not in an overly judgmental
Yes.
way at all. Definitely. And I think sometimes, having a friend talk to you can bring up some of the things that you may have missed,
Yes.
some things you're not seeing necessarily clearly,
Yes.
and make you reevaluate probably some of the values you have and make you think about, are the things that are happening in line with the values that you have or the goals that you want in your life. So
That's right.
yeah, so I think friends are probably very important, and sometimes maybe even able to talk in a way that the parents don't have that sort of relationship established for. So
Hmm.
yeah. So that's good to know. Are there any other things that you think is important for teens to do? Obviously, you talked about doing group dating, staying involved in that way, making sure you're just in contact with your friends. Is there any other recommendations that you have? Or
Yes,
yeah,
I do actually. We are firm believers in role plays
yeah,
and practicing the skills
oh
of
yeah,
refusing.
yeah.
And so yesterday we were able to
Mhm.
practice several refusal skills. First,
Yeah,
being able to say no, whether it's no to drugs, no to alcohol,
yeah,
no to violent situations, no to abusive relationships.
yeah,
Being able to say no. The second step we talked about was to reverse the pressure. And
hmm
I think you were there for the role
yeah.
plays.
I was there for the role plays.
And so we were able to allow the students to practice being able to put the pressure back on the person who was the aggressor. Because in a dating relationship that may be abusive, the pressure may fall into that
Mhm.
child's or student's lap, and then that person may feel like they have to say yes or they
Yeah,
have to go forward with whatever the abuser wants them to do. And you don't have to. Sometimes it's so hard for a student to say no, whether they fear being made fun of, being accused of something, or just being shy. I was somebody who had a problem saying no, but I was really good at reversing the pressure, being
Mhm.
able to get out of the situation. Whether I was able to say, I can't do that right now. I think my mom's calling me on my phone, but my phone really wasn't on,
Yeah.
something like that. And then the very last step is being able to walk away,
Okay.
being able to just turn your back and do something else.
Yeah.
And so we like for them to do those role plays.
Yeah, that seems like it's really important. Sometimes it may be hard for a child to say no or do these things on the fly. It seems nice that you're able to give them a space where they're able to work it out, because it seems like it's a skill, right? It's not something
Yes,
that
definitely.
you can just do.
Refusal skills.
Yeah,
We
that's
wanna
in the
practice
the
them.
title.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah.
And we found that the more that they practice them, the more comfortable they
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
If I say, "Hey, James, here, take a sip of this drink,"
Yeah.
sometimes it's hard to say no when you're
Yeah.
a room
Right on the
full of
spot.
people, right?
Yeah.
But if you're able to say, you know what, I already had a whole lot of water. I'm too full to drink that.
Yeah.
That's reversing the pressure.
Yeah.
Being able to switch it up. And so we want parents to even give their children space at home to practice
Yeah.
these refusal skills. Because when it happens in real life, you'll be able to say, no, switch it up, or walk away and still feel confident about yourself.
Yeah, that's excellent that there are multiple avenues, because it seems like oftentimes the just go-to message is just to say no, but it seems like there are other things that children can do or teens can do besides just saying no, that they can really change the situation. So maybe the pressure is on the other person, or they have some sort of pre-planned
Yes.
excuse or something
That's
to
right.
get out of it. So
Yeah, and the beauty with these skills is they work in almost every situation when we deal with prevention. Getting in the car with someone who has been drinking and
Yeah.
they shouldn't be driving.
Yeah.
This is your best friend, but you shouldn't get in the car with that person.
Yeah.
You can say no. You can reverse the pressure. You can walk away.
yeah,
Maybe going to a hotel room
Mhm.
after prom,
Yeah.
and you shouldn't do this because you're going to be in a situation that could be dangerous for you or unhealthy. Being able to say no, being able to reverse the pressure or walking away. So we just want them to be confident.
Yeah. Well, it's good to know that there are a lot of strategies that parents and teens can practice together, so that way they're more prepared for when these situations come up. And so I want to talk about maybe some of the demographics, some of the statistics of it. So I think traditionally abuse is often thought of as a male abusing a female.
Right.
Is that the case?
Oh
Do we
no,
find that?
we have found that 1 in 3 students across the board has been abused,
Mhm.
and that is involving men or young men and young ladies.
Mhm.
So males can be abused just as females can be abused,
Yeah.
and 1 in 3 have been abused, whether it's been physically or mentally, emotionally. When we talk about dating violence,
And it seems like maybe that's really important for people to know, especially sometimes it can seem like for a male who's in a situation that they might be being abused, they might be afraid to even
right?
let people know because they might feel as if that's something against their own masculinity, or maybe other people don't even will just write it off and say
Right.
that they're being whipped or something like that.
Yes,
Yeah.
and a lot of our male students just say things like, "Well, all females are crazy," and
Oh,
they
yeah.
don't label it as possible dating
Yeah.
violence and abuse,
Mhm.
which we found to be interesting. We want them to be able to identify it so that we can tackle a fix for it.
Yeah. Okay, that's good to know that, abuse can be, it's not just one directional, that anybody can really be the abuser to anybody in the
Right.
relationship. And so, what they say that like an ounce of prevention is worth like a pound of treatment later. So what are some of the things that teens can do to try to prevent some of these situations to avoid being an abusive relationship?
Right. We actually enjoy for them to participate in the presentations. We love for them to practice the refusal skills, having the open dialogue at home with parents, being able to have an open conversation with school counselors or trusted adults, whether it be a teacher,
Mhm.
an aunt, a parent, or a nana, being able to just have a conversation with adults that look outside of the relationship,
Okay.
as well as close friends that
Yeah.
genuinely care about them.
So it seems like it's very important to have kind of a support system
Definitely.
around them.
Definitely.
Yeah, probably a lot important to have a support system in general
Yes.
for all sorts of things that come up.
Yes. And
Yeah.
if they want to speak with someone that they may not see every day,
Mhm.
but knows that cares about them, of course, the eye care specialist at their school. And the parent can actually make a referral for the school counselor to refer the student to the eye care specialist. Every public school in East Baton Rouge Parish has an eye care specialist that genuinely cares about the well-being of the students. And so that referral can be made.
Oh, that's excellent to know. I didn't know that that's a system that any parent can do to refer
Yes,
out to
sir.
if they want to get any sort of support for their child. That's
Mhm.
excellent to know that that's a service that can be provided.
Correct.
And then the last thing, even outside of eye care, were some places or services that individuals can get in contact to get support if they believe that they may be in an abusive relationship.
Okay, well, we love for parents as well as students to please go to the eye care website for tons of valuable information regarding prevention, including dating violence and abuse, and parent tips.
Yeah.
And that address is icare.ebrschools.org, and that's ICARE.ebrschools.org. It's a lot of information. Take your time and take a look at the website. It's a beautiful resource. There are videos,
Right.
there are clips, there are updated news information, and we are also available on social media.
Mhm.
And so we have on Twitter, we have a parent tips
Huh.
area. On Facebook, we are iCare EBR, and we also have an Instagram page,
Right.
iCare EBR. So please friend us and add us.
Right.
It's a valuable resource.
I think that eye care is more social media active than I personally am. So it's good that there's a lot of ways that parents can get in contact with
Right,
you guys.
definitely.
What are some other organizations? I know you guys also have community partners out here too.
We do. We are partnered with the Butterfly Society, and they are a part of our advisory council, an amazing resource, and can give you in-depth information regarding domestic violence, dating violence and abuse, can talk to you about more skills for parents and for students, and may even be able to assist the parent and the student as a whole. together. We also want to refer parents to stoptheviolence.org. That's stoptheviolence.org. It's a website that just has great information on it just to take a look at, as well as it shows the power and control wheel where students can look at that and see if they fall into any of the categories on that wheel. And we also want to remind parents that it is okay to reach out to your school guidance counselor. They are there to help, and we work very closely with everyone.
Yeah, it's a service that EBR provides. We're all here, and it's important that we get utilized, I assume. So,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome.
And I want to also say that the IRIS Domestic Violence Group is available. And Nia Life Counseling Agency has a counseling session where they can take parents and students together and work with them as well. And so very good. We referred people to all of these agencies, and it's really, really good to have these community partners.
Yeah, that sounds like it could be nice to have somebody facilitate the conversation. Maybe some parents aren't that comfortable or don't feel like they have the skills to address the situation. And it's good to know that there are resources out in the community for both parents and children so that they can work together to help prevent and treat some of the abuse that's going on in some of these relationships.
Right.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure to have you here.
Appreciate you.
And to talk with us. And then I think that'll be it for us today. So we'll see you next time on iCare Live.